So for me, the most interesting takeaway from that time was really that you have to be your own advocate and you have to knock on as many doors as you can, because ultimately no one is going to hand you this like perfect career. Nobody is going to just hand you this job or this life experience. It's really about figuring out what you want to do and then figuring out how to do it. So while my classes obviously taught me a lot, I think getting those internships, not even necessarily having them and getting the experience from them, but the experience of getting internship really stood out to me as something that is now helpful in my career, because I think the longer you work in corporate America, the longer you work for somebody else, you are always kind of conditioned to do things a certain way or to be as, I don't know, diplomatic, maybe that's not the right word, but to do things this professional way that people are supposed to do things. And I've realized actually what you should be doing is following your gut, trying to get attention in a creative way and trying to add value in a way that nobody else is. So actually bucking a lot of what you learn in school and in your early career.
Hi, everybody. I am sitting here with Alicia Valko, who is the founder and CEO of an awesome jewelry brand called Clasp. Alicia, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your brand?
Yeah. So hi, everybody. I'm Alicia. I am the founder and CEO of Clasp, which is a fine jewelry brand that finally fixed women's number one frustration with jewelry, which is putting it on by themselves. So all of my necklaces and bracelets feature a patent pending clasp that makes it so easy to put on and take off your jewelry all by yourself, no help needed. And we just launched in February of 2025. So very new.
Great. And I'm actually wearing a clasp bracelet and can attest to it being really easy to put on. I've got some really long acrylics on, and it was very handy to have the clasp, which is really cool. You can do it yourself. These kind of like really, it's a big clasp, but you can just clip on like that. So
yeah, I try to make it much more accessible and just eliminate that frustration. So I'm glad it's resonating. And I hear that frustration over and over again of why hasn't this been done before? And so it's extremely gratifying to have it out into the world finally. I've been working on it since, July of 2023. So it's very exciting to be launched.
yeah. And you're wearing the necklaces.
Yep. I have
a bracelet.
Yep. Necklace, bracelet, pendant, and ring. So yeah.
Gorgeous.
And then my engagement and wedding ring I also designed, but didn't produce myself. So you can't buy these online. But that's one of the things that sparked my interest in jewelry, which was really fun to design by myself.
Yeah. And where are you selling your products today?
Online at clasp.co, CLASPE.co.
Awesome. So I want to take things back. This podcast is How She Got Here. So I want to know a little bit about how you got here. We had a chance to hang out over coffee. I know that you come from New Jersey.
Yep, everybody's favorite state.
So weird. There's so much like New Jersey, like hate in New York. I don't get it, like as someone from California, but I'm like, New Jersey is great. It's green. And one of my favorite movies growing up was Garden State, classic soundtrack, if you guys want a good movie about, it's kind of a love letter to New Jersey. But tell us about New Jersey growing up there.
Yeah, so I grew up in the suburbs. So I had a horse next door, which was really cute to see, like having horses next door. And then on my way to school, I would pass 5 to 10 farms every single day. So it was very much not the New Jersey that people expect when they leave New York City, and it's very industrial. I grew up very much surrounded by farmland, which was really nice. And then close proximity to the beach, which was amazing growing up. Really enjoy being close to the water, and it's a criteria for any place I'm going to live in the future. It has to be near the water. I'm very spoiled coming from New Jersey. And yeah, growing up, I played field hockey, I did student council, and just really enjoyed doing things outside of the classroom that gave me more experience and life experience that would ultimately shape my career. I always felt like grades were important, but not the only thing. I wanted to kind of have a well-rounded education, and I think I did that.
And so you went to college in Maryland, right?
Yes, right outside of Baltimore. I went to Towson University, which is great. I had 8 internships while I was there.
Wow.
So definitely very, not the most studious, but I think getting that hands-on experience really was so instrumental. Did you have any internships in college?
I did, in an area totally unrelated to what I do now. I was definitely kind of like a wayward student in that I was very pre-law path and, lived and worked in DC, did an internship program that was on Capitol Hill, and that taught me that I did not want to do law.
That's important too. That's really important too.
But I'm very fascinated by people who have this idea of what they want to do and stay consistent in that. You knew that you were interested in PR and marketing in that world in high school, and it seems that really tracked for the rest of your career. So tell me about these 8 internships in college, because I did not do that many, and I'm very impressed.
The experiences I had when I was interning were so great in teaching me what I liked and what I didn't like. So I always, from the moment I learned what PR was, I wanted to work at Weber Shandwick, which is an IPG agency. They're like always number one, number
What's
two.
IPG?
Oh, sorry, Interpublic Group.
Okay.
So one of the big 4 holding companies for agencies. And I think actually they might have been acquired. I'm not sure. Don't fact check me on that. But Weber Shandwick was like the top PR agency in the world consistently, always ranked 1 or 2. And I finally had the chance to intern there. And I realized while I really working with brands, I really like pitching media. I knew I wanted to ultimately get closer to kind of being the bridge between the target audience and what was being developed from a product standpoint. So now I'm in product marketing and have my own brand, which is great because you're doing everything, as you know. But it was interesting going from an internship experience, getting that hands-on access to the real world tasks that you'd be doing in a job perspective. And I got really lucky. My first job out of college was for a company that I had interned for 3 summers in a row called Jack Morton, which was such a great experience.
So talk a little bit about how you chose your internships, because that's quite a few. 8 internships is great. That's a lot of internship experience. Did you utilize like your university's job placement program or guidance counselors, or was this all like self-sourced, doing your own research?
I would say more self-sourced. I knew I wanted to be at a specific agency, and it took me a couple of summers to get there, right? Like they weren't hiring freshmen, but I had an internship in high school, which really helped me land other internships and then helped me get closer to the brand I ultimately wanted to be at. And Jack Morton was a sister agency to Weber Shandwick. And I had interned at Jack before I interned at Weber Shandwick and realized that I actually really liked brand and experiential marketing, which is what Jack Morton specializes in. They are the first experiential marketing agency in the world, which is really incredible. Like they would do these truly spectacular events way before anybody was calling it experiential. They kind of crafted that space. And so it was great to get my first steps in my career at such an amazing agency and then have so much love for the people that are there, and a lot of whom are still there, which is great. So shout out to that team.
So experiential marketing, is that event-based? So live event based?
Yeah,
okay.
So it can be. It can also be digital. When you think about a brand experience, it's everything to do with the brand. So when you're driving awareness, right, like what do those ads look like and how does that ultimately impact the experience when you get a product in your hands, right? So tip to tail, the experience is everything that you think of when you think of a specific brand. So a lot of the work early on was live event based, but they have really done brand strategy, employee engagement was a big part of the offering, but live events and experiences are still definitely the bread and butter, although digital is so much more important too. You can't have live without digital. So yeah, it was great to start my career in that dynamic space, which has changed so much.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about some of the brands that you were able to like witness, brand campaigns, because I think it would be helpful to put into context some of the campaigns you worked on to help understand what experiential marketing is. Yeah.
So one of the brand experiences that I worked on personally was for Hilton. They were launching their LXR brand, which is a more boutique hotel experience that is very highly customized to the location that they're in. They were launching it at the International Luxury Travel Market in Cannes, France, and they really wanted help in terms of how to like position the brand and how to let everybody know that they were now entering this kind of boutique hotel experience and building out their luxury portfolio. So we did everything related to the event, pre, during, post communication for the audience, and just ultimately the experience on site. It wasn't just the one day that you're there, but it's kind of the experience throughout the whole event and then how you talk about the brands leading up to it. So it was super interesting getting that experience and really enjoyed working with a lot of different brands. I think that helps you be entrepreneurial and get a lot of experience early on in your career, my career, and coming from the agency space yourself, you know that it's interesting toggling back and forth between different clients and projects. So I was happy to get that experience early on.
I think agency experience is so valuable. You learn so much in such a short time period. And I think part of that is that exposure to multiple brands at once. You're just absorbing a lot of learnings. At least that's my experience of working at agencies in my career. So during college, what was your major?
Mass communication with a focus in PR, and I minored in Italian, so I speak a little.
Cool.
And I studied abroad in Italy, which is great, and just got the best education there. I feel like the internship experience definitely rounded it out, but really loved being close to Baltimore and just had such a great time. Miss those days.
So what was your takeaway from college time? Like either in your major, with your courses, your internships, maybe even your time in Italy. Were there any seeds planted during that time or skills that you developed, or just curious what the takeaway was during that time period of your life?
Yeah.
Could be many, probably.
It certainly was. So for me, the most interesting takeaway from that time was really that you have to be your own advocate and you have to open as many doors as you can, or knock on as many doors as you can, because ultimately no one is going to hand you this like perfect career. Nobody is going to just hand you this job or this life experience. It's really about figuring out what you want to do and then figuring out how to do it. So while my classes obviously taught me a lot, I think getting those internships, not even necessarily having them and getting the experience from them, but the experience of getting internship really stood out to me as something that is now helpful in my career, because I think the longer you work in corporate America, the longer you work for somebody else, you are always kind of conditioned to do things a certain way or to be as, I don't know, diplomatic, maybe that's not the right word, but to do things this professional way that people are supposed to do things. And I've realized actually what you should be doing is following your gut, trying to get attention in a creative way and trying to add value in a way that nobody else is. So actually bucking a lot of what you learn in school and in your early career of like, here's how we do things. You actually should be trying to do the opposite and think creatively about what is the objective that you want. And for me, it was career experience that I really loved. And so I really hustled during that time to get the right experience and to find what I was passionate about. And I just remember like I would reach out to like the CEO of Weber Shandwick and ask for like 15 minutes of their time, and I got it.
That's a huge deal too, because they're a really big company.
Yeah, I remember I think I spoke to their president, CEO, and maybe even like their COO. And I just remember like reaching out because I had nothing to lose. But now in your career, you're more settled. You think, oh gosh, that's like way too cringe. I couldn't possibly. And I think being a little cringe when you're young, like in a professional way, of course, but really
being ballsy in that way.
Yeah, being bold and asking for what you want. I think that actually was a really good learning early in my career that now is kind of resurfacing now that I have my own company. It's okay, how can you get attention in a more creative way? And how can you get in front of the right audience in not the traditional way, if that makes sense?
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing when you're working within a company, especially in a corporate structure, there are rules and structure and there's hierarchy and who reports to who, and people can be so focused on like the correct way to do things in that structure. But I think that when you are a student and you're trying to get those positions, you have to reach out to people. There's no like real playbook for that. I mean, you can, I think, respond to job descriptions and things like that and send your resume out, but it's ultimately networking and like being entrepreneurial in that way.
Yeah.
Like you're figuring things out on your own and trying things out and failing. And I think that is really valuable.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And now the game has changed so much too with AI.
Yeah.
There are certainly companies that are out there that are like AI scanners for your resume and things like that. So even if you have the perfect resume, you might not get seen. And so I learned early on, like you really have to, if you're going to apply for a job, you better reach out to the recruiter on email. You better reach out to people on LinkedIn, get the hiring manager directly. Don't just wait for your application to be seen, because that's never been successful, at least for me. I'm kind of relearning that as I've been launching Claspe, that you have to be really creative and entrepreneurial about the way in which you get what you want. Right. And I'm loving that is coming back. Like that experience I had in college, just being like so bold and so ballsy. I have been really reaching out to so many different people. And when you think about having just launched, you might think, oh, well, maybe I don't have the like right to reach out. But I've learned like you cannot say no to yourself. Let other people say no for you, but never say no to yourself. Take every opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And also your first job coming off of being a student after you'd graduated was with one of the, I mean, it was sourced from one of your internship experiences ultimately. So
Yeah.
very important to your career progression.
It was.
Can you talk about that first full-time role after being a student?
Yeah, so my first role after graduating was with Jack Morton. So I think I was an associate strategist at that point, but I worked in strategy, account management, and business development for the whole time I was at Jack Morton. So I really got this great experience, first in strategy of understanding the target audience and understanding their needs, building strategies that would reach them effectively. So kind of that creativity of how do we need to show up in order to most effectively reach them? What do they need to hear? What do they need to believe about our brand? In account management, really learned how to build professional relationships that were valuable for the agency, but also mainly for the client, right? So thinking about how do you build a strong relationship that's built on trust and transparency and making sure you're delivering on time and on budget. That was always super important. And then business development is really where I thrived towards the end of my time at Jack Morton. I was running all of the pitches out of our New York City office. I had 80% win rate or something amazing. Was really proud of that.
Good job.
Thank you. And I remember that time again, kind of coming back of reach out, see what sticks, and like try to be bold getting attention. So that's kind of been like a nice through line throughout my career. And now that we're talking about it, I'm remembering more and more. Like I used to be very, very ballsy early in my career, and I think that's coming back.
Oh, that's awesome. So kind of paint the picture of age, and you went to school in Baltimore, but you did end up in New York for your first role. How old were you? Talk about that time in your life, coming to New York.
So I lived at home in New Jersey for a couple of years, just paying off my student loans, all that good stuff. And the agency that I worked for had an office like 15 minutes from my house. So I got really lucky from that perspective that they had an office there and in New York and all over. So they're a global agency. And after a few years, I transferred, I think it was like 2 years, I transferred to the New York City office. And that experience was so pivotal.
Did you seek out a transfer to New York? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I did.
Were you like ready for a big city? You were like,
I was so ready. I feel like I was so born to live in a city. And then when I actually did, I thought, oh, I really like cooking. I really like driving. And I really just having space and privacy, which New York City you get, but unless you really make it big. But yeah, it was such a great first experience. A couple of my close friends are from that time in my life, which was so great. One of my best girlfriends, Ali Daniello, she and I like grew up in the industry together and has been kind of my peer in the industry that like I bounce everything off of, and then also just like is personally such a wonderful friend. So it's nice having those female friendships in your life too that come out of unexpected situations. So like at work, we were kind of a tag team. I was working in strategy and business development and she was working in creative, and she's now a fantastic creative director at another agency. But it's so interesting how the biggest takeaway from that time in my life really is like having a network of women that support you, that believe in you, and that champion you inside and outside of the rooms that you're in. So I feel really lucky to have had a boss that was amazing. Her name is Trish Costello. She also was in creative and was such a wonderful boss to have. I still keep in touch with her and just admire the work that she does. But between having a wonderful boss that really championed me, that was really important. I don't know that I would have necessarily gotten to go to New York and like live my big city dreams if I didn't have somebody who was really a mentor and a champion for me. And then having that support system of Allie and others in my, circle of friends. It's been wonderful, like having a best friend grow up with you and kind of experience all the same challenges at work that you have, because I don't know if you have any best friends at work know exactly what you're going through, but it's really nice that you can like bounce off of people and feel that like psychological comfort of, I have this idea, what do you think about this? Or what if I change this? What if I change this positioning? Like, do you think that's going to resonate? And it's been really nice having those female friendships and support centers throughout my career.
I think it is so important, and this is something that is becoming a through line of the interviews that I'm doing, is the importance of social capital and having female friendships and champions, how impactful that is in your career. Like for me personally, throughout my 20s, and this is just like my own journey, I was very actually isolated. I was put my head down and I was like, well, through hard work and just like sheer, no one's going to work harder than me, longer than me, that's how I'm going to get successful. And it's actually not. I think for me, when when I started to actually consciously invest in relationships and expand my social network, that's when it was a huge unlock in my career. Things became easier for so many reasons. You want to actually invest in your social network as a young person. It makes you more resilient. It makes you feel supported. The day-to-day grind of like climbing the corporate ladder, it's a grind. They call it a grind for a reason. And I think having friendship, especially female friendships, it gives you this sense of support. I don't know, the resilience keeps coming to mind, but also just like more stamina almost. It makes the hard things feel less hard. And also in so many little ways, you get advice from your girlfriends, and like your girlfriends will cheer you on and sometimes be the ones to convince you to go after something that you're afraid to. And that's something I'm hearing also in the women I interview. It's great to hear that you had some really good friendships that you met in your job. But yeah, so talk about after that first job, when you left agency world. I'm curious about when you went brand side.
Yeah. So working in business development, there were a lot of late nights, and some of them, I would look at the clock and say, oh, it's past midnight. Do I just sleep at the office because I have a pitch due tomorrow and I have to be here at 7 a.m. and the drill. So after too many of those nights, I knew I wanted to transition into something that maybe gave me a little bit more control over my career, right? Because at the agency side, it can be feast or famine in terms of client work. And that's any agency, right?
Yeah.
Like you are just never in control because you're always working for brands and other people. So I knew I wanted to go in-house, and I got this really amazing opportunity with Casper. So the first bed-in-a-box company, they had been, unbeknownst to me,
And you're in New York at this time,
Yes,
right?
I'm in New York at this point.
And how old are you, may I ask? Just
Oh gosh, I want to say, I don't know, 26, 27.
okay,
It feels
mid-20s-ish.
Yeah, mid-20s. So because of COVID, I feel like time is really...
I feel the same way. It's weird.
It's weird not like fully remembering your own history, because how old was I then? I still feel like I'm 24. I'm 33, but I still very much feel like I'm a kid. So yeah, mid-20s, I started working at Casper. It was a contract role.
Casper is going to show up as case studies in MBA programs. I just know it. It's just they had such huge growth trajectory. And I mean, talk a little bit about Casper as a brand. So many talented folks that I know in the industry actually were part of that OG team at Casper, and they're like so successful now. So I'm just curious, how'd you find out about Casper?
Yeah, so through my network. One of the folks on their marketing team, she introduced me to somebody on their team who was looking for a contractor. And at this point, going from the agency space in-house can be a difficult transition.
Totally.
So I really saw this as an opportunity to figure out where exactly in an in-house role I wanted to land long term. So agency side, as you know, you wear a lot of different hats sometimes, right? So your job might be in strategy, but you are helping with pitches. You are supporting your creative director if you just don't have the time, right? So you're jumping in constantly wearing all these different hats. And then when you go to transition in-house, the job experience is certainly applicable, but it's hard to convince people that that's the case, right? So I used this contract experience at Casper to figure out what it was I wanted to do longer term. And for me, that was product marketing. But they were going through their IPO process. So they had cut a few folks on their marketing team in preparation for the IPO. Yeah, so it was a really interesting contract opportunity at Casper to fill in a number of different areas on their marketing team while they were refreshing their entire portfolio of mattresses with new products.
And what year was this around?
I want to say that was 2016.
2016.
Nope, sorry. I want to say that was 2019, right? Yeah, because I was there.
Okay, right before the pandemic.
Right before the pandemic. Yeah, everything seems 2016. So yeah, 2019, they were refreshing their entire portfolio of mattresses. They were prepping for their IPO, and it was their holiday promo season. So getting thrown into the mix for really like a huge time in the brand's history was incredible. I got to touch everything. And what I loved about that experience was learning about product marketing, because it wasn't necessarily a role on the agency side that you would have. You would be in strategy or production or creative. There's kind of traditional roles on the agency side. And then going in-house, figuring out, okay, do I want to be in performance marketing? Do I want to be in product marketing, integrated, email marketing, right? We had two people that just managed the email marketing team at Casper, and they are a case study in email. If you look at Casper's emails, they are impeccable. Like they are a case study.
Yeah.
So it was just such a great experience being at Casper. And what it really taught taught me was...
It was your first in-house job, right?
Yeah, it was my first in-house job. So it really taught me that I loved product marketing, but I also loved being on the brand side, specifically with like D2C consumer brands. I also like B2B. I really kind of like that intersection between what a brand is selling and what a consumer wants, and bringing that together is magic.
Yeah. So in your words, described product marketing. What is a product marketer? And I've had, or I will have a couple of product marketers on the podcast, but if you're not in marketing, if you're not in tech, sometimes it can be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it not solid. Like what does it mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Product marketing, specifically within tech orgs, has been around for a bit, but now product marketers it's getting more traction. You see a lot more roles for product marketing. And I like to really describe it as like you are the intersection between your customer and your product. So oftentimes you are, if you're in more of like a product-led organization that has something, they don't exactly know how to market it, you figure out who is the audience for it, what do they need, what do they want, how do we position it, how are we differentiated, and then you work with the team to figure out the go-to-market strategy for how do we launch it to the right people at the right time, saying the right thing. Other times you are informing the product. So you kind of take all of those product requirements from your target audience and you turn that into like a product requirements brief for your product team, where you say, okay, we have a product that needs to do X, Y, and Z. We need to build out these features that'll make it better, faster, cheaper, whatever the case may be, because you're trying to meet an audience goal. And so very similar to what I'm doing now as a founder, I knew that I had a product that would solve a major frustration. So then it was just figuring out, okay, who is this most relevant for? How do I talk about it that is going to resonate with that specific niche? And then how do I launch it? How do I bring it into the world in a way that people want to buy it, right? So product marketing, I think of as common sense on steroids, because you're just really trying to understand what people want and figure out a way to give it to them, whether that's through product development or through go-to-market strategy. But if anybody's listening, product marketing is a wonderful career. It is so interesting, and the part of marketing that I love the most, because you're still running campaigns, you're still doing the work of like traditional marketing, but you're also really informing the product and the messaging, and you're really like internal glue between a lot of different teams. So I really enjoy that part.
So your position with Casper started as a contract position. So was the role contract product marketer, or was it called something else?
It was just contract marketing, because I was jumping in on a couple of different teams. So yeah, really got a great and well-rounded experience. I was only there for 6 months, but it was such a pivotal time, both in the brand's history and then also my own, right? Because it took me from agency to in-house at the Not Worldwide, which was another amazing role and company to work for. So it was perfect timing for both of us.
Yeah. So what was something that really shocked you about going in-house? I'm sure a lot of things different from agency. I mean, agency is I feel like you're juggling so many plates at the same time. Not that it doesn't feel like that within a brand, but at least you focus on one brand and you become really embedded intimately with one brand. Just curious.
Yeah, so I think the biggest transition or I guess learning from that time is that at an agency there's a level of scrappiness and just get it done at any cost. That sounds a little funny, but like get it done, right? You have
if you can't go through the front door, you go through the back door, you go through the side door.
Yeah, exactly. And generally there's also a very hard deadline that you cannot move because the client has dictated that. So you cannot move it. So what I learned going in-house is that you're in more control, right, over when things are launching, over what's happening. You have a lot more kind of autonomy in that way, but there's also clear swim lanes a lot of the time. So figuring out how to be somebody who's like very out of the box, very creative in the way that they approach things, and being in more of an established role was certainly a learning. And I found a way to do both in the roles that I was selecting. So I always then looked for roles where I would either be the first marketer or would be in kind of a new business line within the company where I could be entrepreneurial and do all the different kinds of marketing that I was passionate about, but also be within the established structure of an in-house team. And what I really found that I loved was marketplace businesses, which I didn't really know when I was, certainly starting out. My first job, if you had asked me what a marketplace business was, I would say, I don't know, like a marketplace, right? You're going to a market and there's that place. But when I learned about marketplace businesses, I learned that there is, you're filling the customer need and and the business need, because they're looking to find each other, but they're looking for you to do it to make it easy for them to find each other. And so when I left Casper, I joined The Knot Worldwide, which is the world's largest wedding marketplace. So they own The Knot and Wedding Wire, and I was on both of them from a B2B and a product marketing perspective. So really working with their vendor marketplace to help couples find vendors and vice versa. And I found I really like that intersection of marketplace businesses where like you have very clear parameters on both sides that you need to fulfill. And as a product marketer, that makes it really challenging to like strike exactly the right message for the right audience because you're working with a lot of different audiences. And I think that's a really interesting place to be, especially in your career. Like when you do a lot of different things and then you go into an in-house role, marketplace businesses are really great for doing it all.
Yeah. And also just so that people can better understand what are some marketplaces. Amazon is one. I mean,
Yep,
Walmart
Amazon.
is now,
Sure.
there's a marketplace. Like, so talk a little bit about, I mean, marketplace marketing, marketplace businesses, it's very complicated actually because you have vendor relationships, there's pricing rules,
Yep.
there's like rules of engagement within a marketplace and your responsibilities on every side of the relationship. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think there's different monetization models too that make it also especially interesting because generally on one side, it will either be free and then cost the other side money, right? So typically like marketplaces can be funded by businesses and it's free on the consumer side. So that was the case for The Knot Worldwide, The Knot and Wedding Wire. So their vendor marketplace, I'll just speak to that because that's where I have intimate knowledge of it. But on the vendor marketplace side, you have to create a product whereby couples want to come back. They want to submit leads to wedding vendors and they want to find the vendors that are most relevant to them, right? So some element of personalization. Vendors want to be seen first every single time, right? They want to be as highly visible as possible. They want to make sure that they are getting the most leads coming in from couples. And so you're balancing personalization versus how are you going to structure your monetization strategy, right? So is it like a fixed placement? Is it dynamic placement? Are you charging both sides, right? So The Knot and Wedding Wire both are free for couples. And so that was a really interesting experience because you have to balance both sides, like you mentioned. Vendors want to make sure that they are being seen by the right couples at the right time in the process, and couples, they want the same thing. But how do you do it in a way where your one side isn't paying, one side is? And so how do you like remain that, or how do you create that relevancy and personalization when like fundamentally vendors want to be seen every single time and couples only want to see the ones that are most relevant to them? So that role in product marketing was really figuring out the monetization model that would work best for both parties. And so delivering higher personalization, relevancy, and searchability for the couples while making sure that vendors were still getting seen by the right couples at the right time in the right place in their journey. So it was a really interesting role. And yeah, oh my gosh, I could talk about it forever, but I feel like it's one of those things then going through the wedding planning process. My gosh, you see it from a different perspective, right? Like I was working at The Knot before I got married and seeing it as a couple and experiencing the product first while I was there was so cool.
Probably.
And also just made me so sick of weddings. But I love them, but it was a lot of wedding stuff all at once.
And how long were you working there?
About 2 years.
Okay. And so what was the overarching learning there? Just the nuances of marketplaces? I mean, there's so much to learn and unpack there, but
yeah, for me, so I was part of this team that was really revolutionizing the monetization model at the company. And so for me, I was working very closely with their business team on pricing models, on how would we package it and how would we actually monetize the platform, and then working with the product team on, okay, how are we going to make sure that it's highly relevant, that the technology is superior, and that we're providing the best experience for both our vendors and for couples? And so I was in this really experimental group that was revolutionizing the way in which we monetize our platform. And so that experience was great because you're able to understand marketplace models, understand financial modeling, get access to like, how are we going to price this product, right? There's a lot of different ways in which you can price a product, and understanding all of that, it was dipping my toe into being an entrepreneur, even though obviously I wasn't doing everything myself. I had a wonderful team, but it was great to kind of get that experience of think about this as if you were launching it for the first time, right? Don't think about how it's been done in the past. Think about how we want to build for the future. And while it was part of an established business, it was like this really small knit team. We were running experiments on the platform and with messaging, and a lot of the things that I've learned in starting my own business, I think came from that experience. So it was really, I'm glad I had it.
Great. And so what was the next step after the knot?
Yeah, so another really amazing consumer brand, Lyft. So I got really lucky that the team that I worked on, Lyft Delivery, was, again, a very similar situation where it was an experimental business unit within Lyft proper. So after the pandemic, they really saw that there was a need for delivery, not just in food, but for a lot of other things, right? So initially, I think they started with grocery, and I came on after they had proven out the very basic MVP, but they were figuring out how to, again, monetize and grow the Lyft Delivery service. And so I had the really great opportunity to figure out, how are we positioning this? Who are we targeting? How is this unique and different from the competitors that are already in this space? What's our reason to exist? Like, if there's already something out there that fills a need, but we found that there actually wasn't. And so we were working with third-party logistics providers. We were working with brands, not just in the food delivery space, but in auto parts and other things that needed to get delivered, and figuring out how the algorithm could work to maximize a driver's time, make sure that they were earning fairly. So again, another marketplace business, this time with 3 different audiences, right? So Lyft has obviously the consumer, the rider. They have the driver, which is incredibly important, folks who are fulfilling the rides. And then for us, it was businesses that were entrusting us with their deliveries. And so how could a driver seamlessly go between a passenger and whether it be food or physical items, any sort of delivery service. So building that out from the ground up was really incredible. The team I worked with were some of my favorite people in the whole world. So,
and what was your title there, or what was your role there?
Product marketing.
Okay, product marketing.
Yeah, so it was really great in figuring out our target audience, how we were going to position, how we were going to be differentiated, and then working actually with the product team to say, hey, we need to build these features. So things, multi-route deliveries, right? It was something that we came up with together as a team as we figured out what our target audience needed. They needed delivery windows and things like that to be hit every single time. And my gosh, I could also talk about this forever, but I think really the key takeaway from this experience at Lyft Delivery is, again, being entrepreneurial within a larger established business. You're really learning that some of the infrastructure that they had built for the rider side, it didn't translate to the delivery space. And so it was really interesting getting to understand how to build a business from the ground up, even though you had that support system. So I really enjoyed that about the role. And then I got moved over to the Lyft Pink team, and I was responsible for doing all of the research on our rider audience. So completely switching gears, literally, and doing like the research into our primary audiences. And many people think that...
What's Lyft Pink, by the way?
Oh, Lyft Pink is their membership program.
Okay.
Yeah. So my role was really doing all of the primary research to understand who our rider community was at their core, right? So brands are always doing this. They want to make sure that they stay up to date on who their audiences are, what they need, all of those things. And so right before our new CEO came in, that was like my role was, okay, who are our riders? Who are our highest value riders? Which highest value just means like, who is Lyft most high value to, and vice versa, right?
Who's
so like,
using it the most?
Yeah. Who's loving it the most? Where are their unmet needs, right? So we can figure out, okay, would we launch a specific service that we don't have because our customers need it? Or do we want to double down and like offer differentiated pricing or something like that? But so what I really learned was how to very deeply understand our target audience and deliver new products that would meet their needs, which was great. And then when the new CEO, David Risher, came in, I think in his first week on the job, I was presenting our target audiences to him of like, hey, here's who's using Lyft. Here are some of the key things that we've heard from a feature and a product perspective that we need to deliver on. And it has been so cool watching those things roll out consistently. Like a lot of the things that we were finding from our research actually came to be in terms of products. And at a big company, Lyft, you might not see it in 3 weeks. It's going to take a lot of time to build, especially when there is technology involved. And so it's been amazing to see Lyft actually launch products that came directly from the research that I was doing and from the insights. But when you think about how to do that research, a lot of it is you're doing surveys, you are having focus groups, you are doing ride-alongs. So typically Lyft wants their employees to drive for Lyft.
Oh, wow.
To experience the product. Yeah. So especially in marketing, like that was something that they really encouraged, was like, if you have a car, get in, go for rides, and kind of see it from the driver perspective. So you can empathize more with the drivers and understand kind of what it's like to actually use the platform. And then obviously they want you to be riding with Lyft too. And so I would go in and do test rides, like even just around the neighborhood, just to understand, like from a driver's perspective, like I would like ask them a bunch of questions. Do you like driving driving for Lyft. Why not? And then from a consumer standpoint, obviously just it's harder to get real answers from people when you're saying like I'm from the brand. So we leveraged like every research type available, which is really cool. You very rarely get access to like the budget to do all of that. So my gosh, the data nerd in me really loved it.
I feel like in marketing, you get the data girlies and the Excel spreadsheet girlies, and then you get the creative graphic designer. I'm an Adobe Illustrator girly. So are you more of a spreadsheet girl?
Yeah. I'm a spreadsheet girl, but I have been doing both. I've had to be doing both for the past like year and a half that I've been consulting. That's been part of it, right? So I've been at times almost the sole marketer on the team for the company that I've been consulting for, which is a Blackstone-owned company. And that has been really cool, going from an agency where you have a built-in support system and you have people to do everything, but you're also doing everything as well. Like you get a lot of experience doing a lot of different things, but generally like creative, they've got that covered, right? If you're not in creative, that's one thing that's a little hard to fake it or to like jump into. But yeah, I am definitely performance minded. I love data, spreadsheets, Power BI reports, you name it. I really love digging into the data and understanding what the trends are, why people are doing the things that they're doing, but then ultimately how satisfying is it when you launch a campaign that's like super creative and performs the best.
Yeah. So what happened after Lyft? What was the evolution after that?
Yeah, so I knew at this point that I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. I had wanted to kind of stay in-house, but also go out on my own. So I started a consulting business and have been consulting for the past year and a half, again, at Blackstone-owned companies, which has been wonderful. And during that time, I also was really getting this itch to be entrepreneurial, to do something on my own. And coming from the agency space, like you're very beholden to what somebody else wants to do. If they pull the plug on a project, you can outwork everybody and you could still have a project get pulled, even if it's like the right thing and the customers love it. Like
you're so invested.
You're so invested. Yeah. So
that's the tough part of agency world.
Gosh, it's so tough. I'm sure you experience that a lot too. But for me, it was like I wanted to go out and do something on my own where I had a little bit more control, where I could be entrepreneurial, that I could do the things that I enjoy most in my career, that I could have the flexibility, right? And so I thought, okay, consulting business, that's the way to do it. At the same time, I was really starting to think about, what do I want my future to be? I don't necessarily want to be like tied down to a specific spot. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able, ultimately, right? I would love to have a place in the summer and a place in the winter because I don't love being cold or too hot.
Me neither.
So ultimately,
snowbird lifestyle.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's the dream. So I knew I wanted to do something where I'd be a little bit more in control of my own work and my lifestyle, right? So I'd been thinking about entrepreneurship, and for me that meant, okay, consulting, right? Like there's only a few things that you can really do that's on your own, but like still doing the work that you were doing previously, right? Your skill set, making sure you were making use of it. I found though that at that same time, during early days of COVID, everybody was home on the couch, right? And I was gifted a masterclass subscription, and I was watching all of these really great founders and just people in different careers, right? I was mesmerized by some of these stories. And one of them was Sarah Blakely, who I think we connected over at Female Founders Day. So watching her masterclass made me think, oh my gosh, like
founder of Spanx.
Yes, founder of Spanx, and now Sneaks. So which she started because she had the idea of cutting the feet out of her pantyhose. And I thought, oh gosh, like wouldn't that be great if I had an idea like that? And I didn't think more of it. I mean, I'd watched it a few times because people needed content during that time. And I really loved it. I thought it was such a cool concept of going out and creating a product, right? And I didn't have any ideas. So I said to myself, okay, if an idea comes up, I'll go for it. We'll see. We'll see if something comes up. And a while later, probably in 2021, I was designing my engagement ring and my wedding ring, and I really enjoyed that process. And I realized, oh, okay, like that's something I enjoy. Like maybe I'll design more jewelry next time I want a special piece. Really wasn't thinking anything of it. And then when I was getting ready for my wedding, I had grown out my natural nails. I'm a nail biter, so
Same.
I'm wearing
why.
tips. Shout out to Glamnetic because I really love their press on nails, and Chiarosky, who does like dip nails. I really enjoy that too. It's like the girly in me. But I was like finally had a natural nail mani, and that was so exciting to me. I had like grown them out. I was feeling so good about it, and I went to put on a necklace with a traditional clasp, but they're called lobster clasp. But I don't know if you've like heard of that, but it's like on every piece of jewelry that you see everywhere, and it kind of has that little like
the stupid little the tiniest little thing,
tiniest little thing, and like you're trying to like thread a needle behind your head, like with your eyes closed. clothes, trying to get ready, jumping out the door, and I broke a nail right before my wedding. And so first world problems, I had to like get tips because it just destroyed all my nails. Like I'm a nail biter, I had to. And so that was so frustrating. And I thought to myself, like, there has to be something better. Let me just search. When I was Googling, I was typing in everything from like easier to wear jewelry and alternative clasps and really just anything related to jewelry. And I was like, there has to be something better out there. And I was so shocked and so disappointed to find that there really wasn't. I mean, they had magnetic clasps, but that falls right off. Like if you're going anywhere,
it's not secure. It doesn't feel secure.
Right. Your purse pulls on it. Maybe you like tug when you're
your
changing
hair
your
is
hair.
in the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've heard countless stories of people losing like nice jewelry because of that. So it was this really frustrating moment that I was just focused on getting married. I wasn't thinking, oh, let me start a business. But it really like nagged at me for weeks. Why isn't this better? Like, why can't I find anything that isn't going to do this again? Because as a short nail girly most of the time, I just can't even wear necklaces or bracelets because I don't have anything to grab onto to pull back that little closure.
Lever.
Yeah, the little lever. So I thought, okay, like maybe I can just make one for me, right? Maybe I'll just design something and then like, I don't know, figure out how to make it myself. And I was looking into it and it just could not get the idea out of my mind. So I thought, is this my Spanx moment? Is this the cutting the feet out of the pantyhose? And I just kept growing. It would not leave me alone. Like it would be the last thing I thought about at the end of the day and the first thing I thought about when I woke up. And so I thought, okay, let me do this on the side, right? I'll just dedicate some time to figuring out, let me sketch it out, see if anybody would make it for me. And I realized this is a problem that's not just for me. After looking into it, there were thousands of jewelry hack videos of women who were using tape or bobby pins or safety pins or even forks. Like I saw somebody holding a fork and
no.
Like it was, that's wild, right?
Yeah.
Like it was at this point now, like 2023. And I was thinking like, we're like sending people to space. And it takes me like 5 minutes to put on a necklace. And it's not even like worth it at the end of the day. And then you realize, oh my gosh, it's on the wrong direction. So the idea just stuck with me. And so I started designing and sketching and producing a few samples. And
how'd you just the samples, how'd you produce them? Because you don't come from jewelry.
No, I don't come from jewelry. Just my engagement and wedding ring, which was really cool to design. But no, I went through the process of like finding a supplier. So I ultimately, at first I thought, okay, maybe I'll like drop ship or like white label something. I don't know. Are there any businesses like that I'm interested in? And just the more I thought about it, I was like, there's this gap in the market and somebody's got to do something. It hit me like, you're somebody, you could do it. Like, why not you, right? Like, yeah, you don't have experience in the jewelry industry, but like you have experience in understanding what people need and what they want and how they want to be spoken to and the types of brands that people want and like
collecting
the story
data
and the data and all of the data points were telling me, hey, this is a real problem. So I just said, okay, I'll browse. I'll look for suppliers, right? Because I had been planning my wedding. So you're looking for vendors and it's very similar, right? Like you find somebody that you want to work with because of whatever criteria it is, like they're high quality, they're the right price, all those things. So I started looking everywhere for jewelry suppliers. I ultimately found one that I really liked. And so I had initial conversations with a couple of them and then narrowed in on the one I'm using today. And then it just happened. Not that somebody handed it to me, but like every single day I just was taking steps to make this a reality and it snowballed quickly. So I went from never having even thought about putting a company together or starting a company to not even wearing jewelry anymore because it was too difficult. So I went from not even having the idea in my head to now I'm spending every waking hour researching, designing, prototyping. Now I'm launched. Aww. And it's like I look back and I think, wow, like who did that? How did that happen?
Aww.
And when you if you asked me if I really set out to start a jewelry business, the answer is no, but I saw this problem and I had to fix it. And it was like not even necessarily conscious of I want to start this thing and I want it to be a business and I want to call it Claspe, right? Like it happened because I was so passionate about the idea of solving a problem that every day women face every single day.
And you personally experienced it and you searched online for a solution.
Yeah.
And you couldn't find, right. And so I'm so curious, like those initial steps. So you were familiar with creating an LLC. I mean, like you had your consulting business.
Yes.
So that part at least like wasn't so foreign.
Yeah.
But tell me about, I mean, you have the most beautiful packaging. I'll like pull it into the camera in a little bit, but talk about your logo, like registering the business, like those tangible first steps in setting up the company.
Yeah. So this is the part I really love, coming from a creative environment like the agency space where you're creating a brand, right? Every single day, whether or not it's an established brand and you're kind of taking it to the next level through branding, or you're starting from scratch. What I really loved about this process is that I could be as creative as I wanted. So I went through the process of looking at every single one of my competitors, right? So let me back up. So first I decided, okay, I need to patent this invention.
Smart.
So
Very smart.
I went through the process of actually like patenting the invention before I even like did all the branding and everything like that, because I thought if this already exists, we don't need another jewelry brand. We don't need another thing that is going to sit in people's closet or on their jewelry stand, right? So I wanted to be really intentional about only doing something if it solved a real problem, because if it didn't, I don't want to just like contribute to consumerism and all of that, like if there's not a real need in the market. And so I spent a lot of time designing the clasp itself. And so we have a couple of unique features, one of which like you push instead of trying to like do the lever, right? I wanted it to be easy to get on the first try.
It kind of reminds me of what you would use. I ride a bike, and like it kind of reminds me of stuff you might see on a bike, like attaching.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's and it also feels really solid. So did you find a patent lawyer? Like how did that, you like design something, but
Yeah, so I have a patent attorney, but I went through the majority of the process myself and then engaged a patent attorney at the end of the process when I was ready to like actually file and all of that. And so I was very intentional about making something that was really easy for women to actually push in. So I don't know if I can over here. Yeah. So you just push it in and it's so much easier, but it also has these, if you look really closely, it has these like friction points or divots that make it really easy for you to essentially hook your nail into. Like if you have long nails and you want something to hold on to, you can like press down and it kind of guides you. So it's very functional from that perspective. I wanted to make sure that it was perfect. So I spent a lot of time prototyping, making sure it was large enough.
And did you provide the drawings to the patent attorney to make sure that this product didn't already have a patent and
Yeah,
existed?
I did a lot of patent research. Yeah, made sure that there was nothing like it on the market. Designed the clasp to be really highly differentiated and to really solve the problem whether or not you have no fingernails like me most days or you have long fingernails like your beautiful nails. I wanted to make sure it was really easy for people to use if they had dexterity or mobility challenges. And that was a key part of what I wanted to do with the brand. And so after that, I worked with one of my girlfriends who is a designer for all of the branding and packaging. I ultimately named it Clasp with an E because the E on the clasp looks like the product, like you're pushing it in, and it has a little divot point in the E, which is like a nice little feature. But looking at all of my competitors, I wanted to really stand out and be different from a look and feel perspective. So a lot of luxury brands look very serious and very like elegant and black and white. Everything's black and white. And I wanted it to be very colorful and like fun because I like a lot of color. I like having that fun in the way I dress and the way I show up, and jewelry is like the final touch of your look. I want it to make you feel really great. And so everything that I do is very intentional, especially, you know, with the packaging, with how you open up the product. I have a signature scent that I spray in the package that like just makes me happy to do.
I've got my eye on the producer. I could talk to you for hours and hours, but I do want to show the packaging. This is so much fun because I never do show and tell on the show, but we've got the clasp packaging right here, and Alicia so kindly gifted me one of her bracelets, and it came in this like really fun green color, and you can see the logo there. Let me move our lattes. But yeah, and it was like I opened it up and she's got pink and green, really goes well together, and then she scented this. It was like this beautiful scent, and it was just like really beautiful packaging. And I think, you know, you've got such a beautiful brand. You spent so much time on the why. It feels something so personal to you as a problem that you yourself faced. And I think you have such an impressive career background in progression. And I feel like even though you never in your life set out to create a jewelry brand, I almost feel like your life, everything was setting you up for this moment to create Clasp. And I think
I feel that way too.
As like a product marketer, all those experiences really helped you. The way you talk about Clasp, it feels like it came together so quickly, but in a way, your whole career was leading up to this.
Yeah, I totally feel that way. And I think the best thing about launching Clasp is that while there is so much that you have no idea how to do as you're starting a company, in some way I had every bit and piece, like done something like it in my career. And it has been the biggest joy creating something and then finally launching it and seeing people respond to it, and people love it so much. Every time somebody experiences it in person, they say to me, oh my God, why haven't we had this? Or why hasn't this existed? Or why has this been so hard? And hearing people say that they're like falling in love with jewelry again because of the clasp, because they can put it on themselves, has been so gratifying. And I'm just so excited for like the next phase of clasp.
Yeah. And so thank you so much for being on. It was so wonderful to meet you. We met actually at an all-women's e-commerce summit, a female founders collective, and you were so wonderful and kind and like open. And I always like to ask guests, there's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self. What would that be? I feel like there's so much great insight that you shared. And I feel like you sprinkled this interview with some great advice for folks. But what would be your one piece of advice that you'd want to leave with people in this episode?
I would say if you have an idea, explore it. And if it keeps coming back to you, if it keeps you up at night, right, pursue it, go all in with it, and never be the one to tell yourself no.
Yeah.
I think working in corporate, you find that you want to be as professional and respectful, and you want to do things the right way.
Color within the lines.
Yeah, color within the lines. But I find that if you have an idea, you're passionate about it, go for it, and never be the person to tell yourself no.
Yeah, and it could be such a huge additive to your life.
Yeah.
Like in my Claspe, this podcast, and it's added so much to my life, and I think maybe you can relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a beautiful sentiment to leave the audience with. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody.